Hey, everybody, welcome back to Talks with Tiffany. Thank you guys so much for joining today. So, today we have a special guest, and we are going to be having an amazing conversation on how to successfully co parent. And so, for this conversation, I thought who better to bring in with me than my oldest son's father, who I'm currently co parenting with, James Gilbert. Hi, James.
What's up, Tiff?
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Are you nervous?
No, I'm actually excited to,
Uh,
do this.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm so grateful that you volunteered to do this conversation with me. I feel like it's a topic that is so needed because I'm constantly seeing like negative feedback about co-parenting, on my timeline, or I'm hearing about it from friends. So I just, my goal is that this would really help other parents that are co-parenting, and just that our transparency would really, you know, um, just help some other people. So
Yeah, totally.
yeah.
Here
And
for it.
so, with this conversation today, I want to say first that this is our own experience. These are our experiences, and this is just how we choose to co parent along with our spouses. And I just want to say that I think in order for what we're going to talk about today, in order for it to work, I think that you need three things. And number one, I believe that you need God. I feel like with God, all things are possible, especially, co parenting. I feel like for God, that's nothing. He can give you the peace and the drama free life that you desire. Number two, I believe that you have to forgive yourself. Sometimes when you're co-parenting, there can be a lot of unforgiveness there, maybe, or regret or guilt, because maybe things didn't go the way that you planned. Maybe things, you had this plan and you had it written out and you thought that it was going to go this way, and maybe it kind of took a left turn. So just forgiving yourself for the mistakes that you made. And number three, forgiving the person that you're co-parenting with, forgiving them for the things that they may have done to hurt you or to hurt the child or just whatever happened. I truly believe that forgiveness is the key to co-parenting, because if you don't forgive yourself and if you haven't forgiven them, there's no way you can have a relationship without the anger and the bitterness and the resentment and the guilt. I mean, I just feel like you have to forgive and just let all of that go. Let the past be the past. Accept things for what they are, and accept things for where you are in life, and then just move forward. So, moving on, I thought that it would be fun today. What we did was I asked a lot of people that were co-parenting. I asked them some questions and things that they kind of would like to be talked about in today's conversation. So I put all of the questions in a basket. So we are just going to pull questions from a basket and answer the questions and go from there. And so, did you have anything that you wanted to add on what you felt like is kind of necessary in order for co-parenting to work, or what you're?
I mean, I definitely think that for me, one of the things that I had to grasp was like humbling myself. Like, definitely, like, slow to speak, faster to think, and just really just be in the moment that I was in and learn what I had to fix about myself, to be more presentable to you and to my son. And yeah, I just had to really humble myself during that time, during the beginning stages of when he was a baby.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Humility is key. Okay, so here's our little basket, and we're gonna just mix around the questions. And I guess since you're the guest, I'll let you go first. I'll let you pick first.
I'm scared. First question: how do you co-parent as it regards to holidays, birthdays, etc.? And you want me to answer this?
Hmm.
This is a good one right here. Well, I think that being the person that I am, I'm very I don't know, I listen more um versus like I'm non-confrontational. I don't want to argue, so I kind of let the other person just win sometimes when it comes to that. Like, say if I did want him a certain day, but you have plans, I would probably most likely just say, okay, that's fine.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And not be mad about it or anything, but
Right.
just no confrontation at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And since we've been co-parenting, I don't think that we've had any altercations to where it was like, well, I want him on this day. Like, for instance,
Yes.
his birthday this year,
Yeah.
we were like, he was supposed to be where here.
He's in
He's in
Sacramento.
Sacramento,
Yeah.
and
So.
you forgot that I was going to take him camping or whatever.
Oh
And
yeah.
then I was like, wait. And then you was like, what day? And it was like, so the dates happened not to be on the same
Right.
time frame, so it
Yep.
worked out. So
Yes.
it's just communication.
Yes. And I believe that that is key. He said communication. And I feel like this one is kind of a no brainer. I feel like if holidays, if it's that difficult for you to decide, then you guys can just alternate. Like if
Right.
one person gets them for Christmas this year, then obviously the next person gets them for Christmas next year. You guys can just go back and forth if it's, that hard for you to kind of figure out a schedule. With me and James, we don't have like set days or set schedules. It's just whoever has something planned,
Right.
then go ahead and take them. Sometimes I just want to sit in the house and do nothing, so I'm
Right.
like, "Oh, you can have them for Christmas. We're not
Yeah.
doing nothing." It's not a big deal. So I know either way he's gonna enjoy his day and have fun. So
Exactly.
that's all that
Either way.
matters. Yeah. So okay, next question. What if I don't like the things that my child's mother or father is into and I don't feel that my child is safe with them? Okay, so if you don't okay, well, I would first say if you feel like the child is that like unsafe, then I would think as much as I don't we'll get into this a little bit later, but as much as I don't like personally, I don't like bringing court into the relationship. But if you really feel that the child is that unsafe, then I would say just, maybe going to court and having supervised visits where that way, the child is safe. They're being, there's a court ordered supervisor that's there watching the child when they're visiting, just so that you have peace of mind in knowing that the child is safe. You know what I mean? And then also, like James said earlier, communicate with that person and, you know, respectfully. And this is one thing that I feel like is so important with co-parenting is you have to watch how you say things. Sometimes it's not what you say, but it's how you say it. Um, because if you're coming off like disrespectful and rude, then of course they're not going to want to, maybe change or alter what they're doing around the child because you're coming at them like super disrespectful and like you just want an issue. So I feel like just being respectful. There are times that me and James, it's something that I think I've learned is maybe not to send everything via text message because I feel like sometimes I've sent you a message and maybe it's hard knowing how the person is saying it when you're reading a message, so it can come off like a different way. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's better to just call or do it in person. That way you can hear how it's coming off.
Right.
It's not being disrespectful and kind of like that. I just feel like respect is key. It's how you say things. So I feel like if you talk to them and you say it respectfully, you guys should be able to work it out. I don't know. What do you think?
Um. So let me read that question again.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely believe that like kids see and hear everything. So it's like if I was the main carrier of the kid and my son's mom or whatever was into things that I wasn't really okay with, I would totally be like I wouldn't keep her from him, but I would be aware and like checking her on that. You know what I mean? You don't want your kid to be around certain environments and they come home and they see all these things because it doesn't leave their mind. They remember it, and sometimes it can influence them. And so
Yeah.
you're gonna be safe.
Yep. And then that just kind of brought me back. Like I can, from the entire time that me and James have known each other, I would say since we've been co-parenting, we have probably I can count on one hand like how many disagreements we've had. Like I
Hmm.
could remember all of them vividly, and I feel like I one time I remember Javen had came home and he was like singing this song. And the words were just like I'm like, what song are you singing? And so I looked at the song and it was like these horrible negative lyrics. And I remember, I text you in anger, which I shouldn't have done. And I'm like, why do you keep letting him listen to all this kind of music? Like he's coming home singing this and it's not good. And then it started an argument because, the way that I said it was a text message, but that's why I go back to it's better to communicate over the phone or in person if it's like something serious like that so that
Right.
it's not coming off the wrong way because it turned into like an argument.
Right.
And so, but that was like one of maybe four arguments that we've ever, had.
Yeah.
So just it's all about how you say stuff and communicate and come across when you're saying something.
Hmm.
So I think it's your turn.
Cool. Have a green one. All right. What if I was physically abused by my child's mother, father, and am scared they will harm the child? I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, if you're in fear that they may harm the child, you can only learn from that from experience. I
Yeah.
don't know. Try to let him see his child. And if he does put his hands on him in a way that is like very harmful, then yeah, keep your kid away from that.
Yeah, and then that's when I would say, then you would bring in court or
Right.
like because you do need supervised visits for that
Yeah.
person. He needs to get like anger counseling
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
So that's in that case, I would say you need to go to the police or to the
Yeah.
court. So
Especially in these days and times, I think people are
yeah,
just losing it. So
yeah,
you
it's too
don't even want
much
to play
going
with that.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's
okay,
an easy one, huh? Just
yeah,
don't.
yeah, no brainer.
Yeah.
Okay, so okay, what if my child's mother or father is a deadbeat? Okay, well, if they're a deadbeat, in my mind, when I think of a deadbeat, I think of someone that just doesn't come around, don't call, don't text to check on the child, like have had no interaction with the child in I don't know how long. So if your child's mother or father is a deadbeat, they don't help financially, whatever, I would just say, just keep doing you. Like,
Right.
continue taking care of the child. Like, how does them not being around hurt you from doing what you have to do to take care of the child? Like, that was my perspective. When I got pregnant at 19 and had my son, we weren't together. So in my mind, I wasn't even thinking about him. I was just like, okay, I know that, no matter if he's a part of Javen's life or if he's not a part, I just know that I have to take care of him. Like, that's my responsibility. If he wants to come along for the ride, then great. If not, Javen still has to be taken care of. So whether they're around or not, I mean, I just don't see how you have to just think about it like it shouldn't hinder you from taking care of your responsibilities. So if they're a deadbeat, then just keep doing you, taking care of the child, being the best parent that you could be, and don't allow that to hinder you. And then because they're deadbeat and they're not around, that kind of gives you more control as far as and say so as far as how the child is raised and the things that you want your child exposed to or not exposed to. Like, don't look at it as such a negative thing if the parent is not around. You get to raise the child, however you want to raise them in the best way possible. You don't have someone else's like input, especially if they're a deadbeat. I'm guessing, you probably don't want their input, but or maybe you do, but in either case, don't let that stop you from taking care of your responsibilities. Just focus on you, focus on the child, and be the best parent that you could be. I mean, you have anything to add or?
Yeah. I mean, you definitely want to all everything that Tiffany just said. You definitely want to take that in consideration. You also want to like pay attention to how often the dad is trying to come around. Like say, because I was my dad. I want to call him a deadbeat, but he would come around every 5, 6, 7 years and leave. And like as a kid, I was super hurt. Like my throat used to clench, and like I would miss my dad. And telling what my sister went through. So for me, I definitely knew that like if I wasn't in my child's life, how could I consider myself being a man today? Like I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror and be like, I'm a man. I'm not successful in anything I do because I have a child out there that's like without me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I just say like for a mother or father that is dealing with a deadbeat parent, then it hurts and it sucks for the child. But at that point, it's nothing you can really do to make that person come into the child's life.
Right. And I think so many times, honestly, I feel like when you're dealing, like if you're dealing with your child's parent being a deadbeat, I feel like it's hard on you because you are doing everything alone
Mm,
financially.
mm,
If you're working or if you're in school, you got to take the kid to school or to daycare. It's a lot, and then so you probably you could really appreciate the help if they were around.
so much.
And so I feel like it's hard on you, and then it's also hard, on the
Hmm.
child, and that's probably who you're more concerned about is the child,
Yeah.
with the parent not being around. But this is where God comes into place because when you have God in your life, you don't have to worry about how the child's going to turn out or how it's going to negatively affect them in their future if they're going to grow up. You just have to trust God. This is where, like, God, I trust you that, and I'm going to pray over my child every day. I'm going to cover them. And I know that, if I do my part to raise them in the best way that I know how, I know, God, that you will do your part and they will be whoever you want them to be, no matter who's around, not
Right.
around.
Like
You know what I
God is
mean?
gonna be the father.
Right. Yeah, because God is
He
exactly, He's our
is.
Father. So
Yes.
whether, the parent is around or not, that child is going to be well taken care
Know
of.
that.
And this is just where you having a relationship with God comes into play. You won't worry about stuff like that. It may come and try to cross your mind, but you don't sit there and dwell on it and get depressed and then
Mm.
start getting angry all over
Yeah.
again and mad about the situation. You're just like, nope, I have peace, God, that you're going to take care of us.
Yeah.
and we're gonna be okay. You know
And
what I mean?
sometimes it can definitely make the child stronger. Like I think, I went through
Mm-hmm.
my rough patch when I was a kid. Like I didn't have a dad to take me and show me what I'm supposed to be and not supposed to be doing, but
Hmm.
it definitely made me stronger.
Yes.
It made me a stronger father. It made me a stronger man. Period. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? It made me want to be a family man. Yeah.
Right. And that's what I feel like too is using it as an advantage. Like
Mhm.
you learned what not to do as a father. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I always say that because I was raised without my father,
Mhm.
and so I always tell my brother and sister like we learned what not to do with our children.
Yeah.
You know what I
At a
mean?
young age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know how to be a better parent because one of my parents was not around.
Yeah.
So you can look at it as an advantage, as a positive,
It's straight up.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So okay. Your turn.
My turn.
Yep.
What if my child's father or mother isn't helping financially? Do I still need to let him see our child? I mean, you don't want the kid to be mad at you when they grow up. You know what I mean? Just because, I mean, that's a lot. They do need to help financially. I mean, it depends on where they're at in their life, too. Like,
Hmm.
anything can happen to them to where they are not able to make money.
Hmm.
So I think that they should definitely see their child. It's just going to be rough. But you don't want the kid to blame you
Right.
for not letting him see his dad.
Yeah. And I totally agree with that. And I just feel like, once again, this is where
Hmm.
God comes into play. Because,
Yes.
like I said, we weren't together when I first had Javen. So I didn't have no job, but
Yeah.
I was literally putting all my dependence on God. Like, God, I know I got myself into this situation. I know this is my fault, but I am trusting you that you are going to take care of me and Javen. You know what I mean? And I never, I never asked you for help financially until Javen was like 4, until we moved
Hmm.
to LA. So like
Hmm.
4 or 5 was when I started, I was like, okay, now we could, use some help.
Right,
He's getting
right.
older. And because you lived out here, it was easy. You were like,
Hmm.
okay, I got you, no
Yeah,
problem. You know what I
yeah,
mean? But for so long, for years, I did not ask you for help
yeah,
because I think it was pride too. Like, no, like we're okay.
yeah.
Like I got this. I trust God. I just kept saying, I trust God. I trust God. But eventually, it's like, okay, can
Hmm.
you help?
Hmm.
And you were able to help.
Hmm.
But like you said, it depends on what place they're in financially. It's not
Yeah.
like I was like, hey, I'm gonna need like $1,000.
Right,
No, it's
right,
just like
right.
whatever you could help. If anything, I would be grateful.
Yeah.
It's like it's communication. It's how you say stuff. Once again,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
so, um, I just feel like even if they're not giving financially, if they're not giving anything, you still need to let
Heck yeah.
them see their child. Like that's their child.
Yeah.
If money is that important to you, then I would say, I guess go to court if that's what you want.
Yeah.
But I would, I mean, be sure that's what you want before if you want to bring the court into your relationship,
Right.
they tend to take over,
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
what I've heard and researched. So just be sure that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful to you because and
Yeah.
this is why I say God is so important, James, because I remember a couple months ago, you give me a certain amount every month,
Hmm.
and a couple months ago, you were like, "Hey, I just deposited the money," and I checked, and it was like more than what you normally, put in there. And I'm like, "Oh,
Because that's what
you
God
put
told me to
more."
do.
See, and it was so needed. It was
Yeah.
like perfect timing, but I didn't have to like, chase you down like, "Hey, are you gonna put?" No, it's just
Mhm.
like whenever you put it in there, you put it in there,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna be grateful.
Yeah.
But you put and I text you and I'm like, hey, you put this much in there. You were like, yeah, I wanted to put more in there this time, and I'm gonna start putting more in there as I go up. I'm gonna make sure y'all are going up,
Mhm.
And I'm
Mhm.
like, dang, like
That's God.
that was so God
Yeah.
because how often does that happen?
Yeah.
You know what I
Right.
mean with parents that are co-parenting.
Right.
Like
Well, it's crazy because Javen was born like when he was really little, and like I used to be running them streets, doing drugs, just being wild. I was
mm-hmm.
21 years old.
Yeah.
But something in me was still saying like, bring these diapers, bring this milk, go over there,
Mm-hmm.
call her, go over there. I used to, as bad as I looked to you, I know because I was looking like crazy, and you'd be like so annoyed to see me at that door, but I'll be like, here, for an
Yeah.
hour or two or whatever. And then when
You
he turned,
did. I forgot you
remember,
did.
and then when he like
Yeah.
started getting like 2, 3 years old, I'd be like,
Yes.
family, like I had
Yes.
to inch my way in, and like
Yes. It
so.
was. Yeah.
I feel like as I'm doing things in a positive way, God is like telling me like do this, do that, do this, do that. And as I listen
Wow.
to him, it's like, okay, I get blessed even more in my life. So when I did that, I put a little bit more in there. God told me, sacrifice, put more in there. You're gonna be fine. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna start doing it. And what? God is just gonna continue to bless me.
Wow.
So it's gonna be fun.
See, he is, and I'm like so happy for you because here's the thing that people don't know is that when I got married, I moved to LA with my husband, and then maybe what, like a few months later, you moved out here.
5 months later, yeah.
5 months later, James moved out here because he's a celebrity hairstylist in Los Angeles. So if you need your hair done, go to James because he does mine.
Oh
He does my
God.
husband's. He's the bomb. But yeah, when we moved out here, we weren't like I lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
Um, I moved out here. Wait, how? We weren't as close as we are now.
No, we
Yeah.
weren't. Because no, we weren't as close as we are now. I feel like once you moved out here, then you were able to like start coming around more,
Yeah.
start getting Javen,
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I just feel like God has opened so many doors for you, and I'm not saying it's just because you help financially, but like you said, when God tells you to do something, you're obedient and you listen to that
That
the Holy
calling,
Spirit.
yeah.
Yeah, and so doors are opening for you like left
Yeah.
and right. So
I mean, when I moved out here, I was like, there's 3 things I want to do. I want to live in Los Angeles. I want to move to LA to do celebrity hair, and I want to move to see my son, like, to be closer to him. Because how
Yeah.
would it even work?
I know
I mean,
Sacramento
it
to
wasn't
LA.
gonna work like that.
Yeah. So, and it's been a good thing so
It's been
far.
a good thing.
So,
Real good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay, my turn.
Yep.
Well, let's see. Okay. Okay, what do I do if I don't like the new person that my child's mother or father is with?
That's a good one.
Okay. Honestly, I would just say communicate. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like you sit down, have a talk with your child's parent one on one, and just what don't you like about them? And
Yeah.
honestly, like, let's be real. If what you don't like about them isn't realistic, like, is it coming from a place because you're jealous that they have moved on without you, or is it really something that person is doing that is like gonna harm your child? You know what I mean? Like, you have to be honest with yourself, because that's why I said in the beginning, God and forgiveness is so important. You got to forgive yourself so that way you can let all that stuff go, and then forgive your child's parent so that way you're not angry and like and then you start being jealous when they do move on without you. You have to accept, okay, the relationship is over. We're done. I'm going to move on. They're going to move on. We're going to be happy, and we're going to peacefully raise our child together. And so if you don't like the new person that your child's mother or father is with, I would say sit down with them, have a talk with them, and really discuss like peacefully and respectfully what it is that you don't like about that person. So I mean, we've never really had this issue because what's funny, you guys, is he actually grew up with my husband, and I had no idea until Ray, you had came to pick up dropped Javen off one day, and Ray was at our house when me and him were dating, and he seen you walking into the car, and he was like, "That's your son's father?" And I was like, "Yeah, I told you his name was
so
James."
funny.
And he was like, "What?" He was like, "I went to school with him." Like Ray didn't handle it. He was just like, he was so shocked he didn't know. And so so you guys already knew each other.
Yeah.
So it just was like, it was okay for us, you know? And then your new wife, because you're newly married, yay, congrats. So your new wife, like me and her, we went to the same church together for a few years. And so it wasn't, you're just, now had I had been like, I want James back, or I want, or I don't want nobody else around my son, or I don't know, like just drama, like unnecessary. If I was like that, then it probably would have been drama. But if I'm at peace and I'm happily married, why am I stressing or upset that he's moving on with somebody else?
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Like if you're really, if you're upset and you don't like the person and there's like nothing that they're doing that's harming the child, then you need to really look in the mirror and ask yourself, okay, what is it that I'm holding on to that I have not let go of? Because if I have really let go of everything and have moved on like I say I have, and I don't care about him like I say I have, then why am I upset? Why am I sitting here trying to think of a reason to cause drama or cause an argument over this new person that they're with? You get what I'm saying? Like, it shouldn't, I would just say sit down and examine yourself and examine your own heart and see what's in there that maybe you don't know is still in there. Maybe there's still some unforgiveness there. Maybe there's some jealousy or some anger or some hurt, that you never let go of. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I deal with a lot of coworkers and stuff that go through the same issue too, and I
Oh
think that
wow.
like from what I hear is like sometimes the girlfriend or the other person that's not the child's mom or the dad or whatever, they can kind of take that role on a little too tough, and
Mm,
that could be a little like offensive to the real parents, like so just I would say I don't know, that's a tough one. I would just say ease into the child's life, be a friend to the child first, like gain the love of the child, like the trust and let them go home and rant and rave about how good of a person you are, how much let the mom see
right.
that, oh, my kid loves this person. Like, okay, that's cool.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
yeah,
Um, yeah, because I've never had a problem like with Mariah or Javen
yeah.
has never came back and said anything.
Other than she makes them take naps, and I'll
Yeah,
be
she
like,
makes him take naps. He's never said anything negative to me about Mariah.
yeah,
And me, because I know you, like, okay, if it was the old James, like you
right,
said, then maybe I would be like, not really trust who you have him around.
yeah,
But because I know you now and I trust you with Javen, I know that you're not going to bring anyone around him that is like no good to him.
yeah,
I
yeah,
know if someone is harming him or being, like you said, being too hard on him or trying to
hmm
take that parent role too seriously, you're going to like step
oh,
in and, you're going to stand up for
100%,
him. So I don't have to like worry about that. You know what I mean? So but if your child's parent is not like a trustworthy person and they are kind of out there and you don't like the person that they're with,
yeah,
I would just say, sit down, have a conversation, respectfully and peacefully, and if it doesn't, work and you don't get the problem solved, then I would say, I guess I don't know, maybe go to court the next step. And because it's like, if you really feel like your child's not safe with the other person, the new person, then it's like, do you have evidence? What is it? You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, what are they carrying guns around the kid? Are they
right,
doing drugs
right,
around the
right,
kid? And sometimes it can be that. So if it is that, then I would say, get your evidence, go to the police, go take it to court, because now your child's, life is really being endangered. So it just depends on the situation and I
yeah.
guess how you want to handle it. So, yeah.
How do you know if when you should take your child's parent to court for custody and or child support? I guess when it's like when nobody's listening to each other, there's no kind of agreements being made. You can't even talk to each other. It's just I think that's the point right there. I think there was like a few times we were like, or I think I came at you and was like, I'm going to court. Like I
That
got
was
so
the very
mad.
first. Yeah, that was the very first time you took Javen and you brought him back late, and I
Is that
was
what happened?
so upset. And Ray was there. Let me tell you, this is how God will use your spouse, because me and Ray were just dating at the time, and I remember it was like the first or second time you had taken Javen, and it was hard for me to even let you take
I
him.
know.
Like it was it. He was like what, two
Mhm.
and a half, maybe almost three. And I let you take him, and I was like, bring him back by 6 o'clock. And I think you brought Jamin back at like 6:17. I was
I think that's the
hot.
time exactly
I
too.
was hot, and I think yeah, one of your nieces came with you, but
I
I
think it
was
was
like,
Shania.
I
She
was
dropped me off.
okay,
Uh
yeah,
huh.
I was yelling, and I grabbed Javen, went back in the house, and then next thing I know, somebody had messaged me, and they were like, "Look what James just posted on Facebook," and you were like, "Should I take her to court?" Facebook. I'm like, whatever, take me to court, right? My pride. Ray was like, Tiff, call him and kill it. Like, don't
Oh,
give
I
the
love
enemy
Ray. He's
no
so
room, right?
tight.
And I'm like, no, I'm not calling him. He's like, Tiffany, call him and just kill it. Tell him it's okay. You forgive him. Like, don't give the enemy no room, because right now he's angry and the enemy is playing with his thoughts. You're upset. No, like, just kill it. So I called you. I'm like, you know what, James? I'm sorry that I yelled at you. I'm sorry that I was, disrespectful. I just, I thought you were going to bring it back at this time. I was worried. I apologize. You were like, you know what? I'm sorry. Like, you got all soft. He was like, I'm sorry. That's just my fault. And
That's
bam, it
tight
was
though.
killed. But
Yeah.
because of Ray,
Right. Right.
like,
Right.
I don't know. I
That's
just
so
thank
dope.
God for,
Heck
like,
yeah.
we got good. I have a good husband. You have an amazing
Yes.
wife. And I'm just grateful that God has graced us to co parent so well, you know?
So good.
Yeah. So, I just feel like if you're struggling like super, super hard financially and you literally, it's just hard and you feel like you could really use the support of your child's parent, and especially if they have the means to do it, then I would say go to court. Like if you really need the help and there's just, then go to court. Do what you have to do. I have nothing against court, and I'm not saying like don't ever do it. just my personal preference is I just don't want them in my business.
Right.
But if you're struggling financially and you really need the help and you know that the person has the means to help you, then I would say just go to court, get the help that you need so that you and your kid have food to eat every night and you guys have clothes and a roof over your head. Because when it comes down to it, making sure that you and the child are taken care of is what's most important. So,
Yeah, and if that other spouse is like doing well in their life and they're making good money and they have a whole other family they're taking care of, and you're sitting over here raising you guys' kid, and he's living his best life, she's living her best life. Yeah, take her to court. She
yeah,
deserves it.
yeah. I mean, they
I
can
mean,
help. You're not causing no financial strain.
no.
And I think for me, that was the reason why for the longest I didn't ask you for help. One was probably like just a little bit of pride and trying to just like I'm just going to depend on God. But two, I didn't want to cause you financial strain. And that's what it would always be going on in the back of my mind is like I don't know if he has it. I don't want to make it harder for him to live, or I don't want to, and it's just like, but I needed the help, and so I had to put my pride aside, and that's why I wasn't like, hey, can you give me this much a month? I was like, whatever you can give me, like in the beginning, I'll take it, So, yeah, I mean, it depends. So, is it my turn?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you do if the child's father says he's coming but constantly no shows? Okay, so for this one, I would say don't ever tell the child when the parent says they're going to come get them. So that way they're not getting super excited and then something comes up and then the parent can't come. Now the child's, sitting in the corner crying and disappointed. And then you don't want them to continue experiencing that pattern of like disappointment of, people not keeping their word. So I would say first, don't ever tell your child that they're coming. And then number two, I would just say, it shouldn't upset you that much. I mean, if you haven't told the child yet, the child's not going to be disappointed, then I feel like it shouldn't really be an issue unless you've like literally rearranged all of your plans for them to come and get the child. Then okay, yeah, that I could see how that can be a problem. But there's been a few times where you're coming to get Javen and you're like, oh, I got to work later. I got to, and in the beginning, I would tell Javen, but then once I started seeing like, okay, he works a lot, I wouldn't even tell Javen. I would just let Javen be surprised, like, oh, Javen, your dad's here.
Yeah.
And that way Javen's like not getting disappointed,
Right,
So
right.
I would just say, just make sure you don't tell the child and just wait until the parent actually is like at the door and like, oh, guess what? You're going to daddy's house or you're going to mommy's house for the weekend, So
I would say the same thing. Don't tell the child.
yeah, shouldn't be too much of an issue.
No.
So
How do you co-parent with someone if they're never around? Don't co-parent.
right, like
There's no other parent.
I mean,
Yeah, simple.
do you
Yeah.
take care of you and the child? Yeah, I guess don't worry about co-parenting then. Take care of the child. Kind of like the question that we had earlier, but yeah, that's what I would say. Okay. Okay, what are the rules for co-parenting if you or the other parent are in new relationships? Okay.
New relationships.
Yeah. So like if you guys you're not together and I'm guessing one of you starts dating someone, what are the rules? What do you think? Okay, I would say first, always be respectful to whoever the new person is. Like, give them a chance. Don't just be super negative and, just
right.
ugly and mean from the bat. Like, give them
Yeah.
a chance
Yeah.
to show you, and prove to you that, they are okay with being in your child's life and the fact that the person they're dating has a child. And, just let them prove to you that their motives are right and pure.
And that nobody else can be that child's parent but you. Like, you know what I mean? I think that's one thing we deal with sometimes. We're like, well, is she going to be a better dad than me? Or, you know what I mean? Is she going to be a better mom than me? You definitely have to just know that you are the father, the mother, and,
Yep.
be that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's where confidence comes in. You
Yeah.
you have to be confident because if you're insecure and you're like, it won't work, that's like, it just won't work out because I'm going to that's like me constantly worrying and wondering what's Mariah doing with Javen, or does Javen love her more than he loves me, or
Right.
is Javen having more fun with her than he's having with me, or is he gonna start calling her mom? Like, you're just worrying about a whole bunch of stuff that
Yes.
you don't even have to worry about.
Mhm.
Like, don't let the enemy play all those tricks and run all those thoughts through your minds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
have to shut it down.
Yeah.
And so this is where being confident comes into play, where you just be confident, like you said, you're that child's mother or father. They are here because of a part of you, and nobody can replace you in their lives, especially if you're active and you're in their life full time. Like nobody
Mm-hmm.
can, nobody can replace
Because I think
that.
we had our little situation with that too before. I think because Javen calls Ray dad. He has two dads. You know what I mean? It took
Right.
me a while to like understand that. To like, okay, you know what? He does have two dads. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's okay. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it's like you have to be very secure and like not allow yourself to like be weak.
You do. You do. And in this, you've never even brought that up to me. I think it's the first time you're telling me that.
Right now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
know that. So I just like I'm grateful to you that you never did make it like an issue,
Right.
or you
Yeah.
never did just make it like a problem.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Javen can't call. You're
No,
just
yeah, like it is. He's
God
a
gave him
father
two
figure in
dads
that
and
home.
he has
Yeah.
two moms. And
Exactly.
so he's like extra blessed. You know what I
There
mean?
you
That's
go.
how I look at it. Like, because there's things that, and characteristics that I have, and there's characteristics that Mariah has that she
Right.
can add to Javen's life as
Right,
well.
yeah.
And so it's learning like I have strengths, I have weaknesses. Mariah has a different set of strengths and she has weaknesses. So where I'm strong in, she might be weak. Where she's strong, I may be weak. And so it's like, we're working together to raise this child. So I would just say the rules, number one, always be respectful. Like, number two, one thing that I have to say is, rarely do I really have like conversations with Mariah, unless she's like texting me like, "Hey, does Javen have lunchbox already?" Or, "Hey, what size does he wear?" Something
Yeah.
like that. But when it comes to like serious things regarding the child, I always go straight to you. Like, so I would say always
That's
go straight
a good key, yes.
to the source. If Javen tells me something or is like, "Oh, she made us go to sleep," or she made whatever, then I'll talk to James like, "Hey, Javen said this," but I never text Mariah like, "Oh, Javen said you was doing this, this, and this," or like, "Why did?" No, like we're grown,
Yeah.
we're adults. There's
Yeah.
no reason for me to have any contact with her.
'Cause,
It's
yeah.
me and you. Like if I have a problem or he says something happened, I'm gonna talk to you. And it likewise, if you hear Javen saying something happened, then you'll bring it to me. And so I just feel like you just it goes from there. So I mean, I think those are rules. Is always you two do the communication,
source, yep.
yeah, and then be respectful of all of the spouses. Need to be respectful and cordial. You know what I mean? So anything else? Any other rules? Yeah, I don't think there's anything else either.
Good question. Really good.
Thank you. Or
You did these?
yeah, I
Oh,
did.
last one.
Is it the last
It's
one?
the last one.
Okay.
All right. Me and my child's parent argue too much whenever we see each other. How can we parent at all? How can we co-parent at all? I mean, why?
Why argue? Why arguing?
Right. Like, why? Why let anybody get your energy like that? I think that comes back to like you and like, you know what I mean? Not allowing certain energy to like just get into your, like, you got to sit down and pray. You got to take a breath, fresh breath air.
Yes.
Cleanse yourself, because if you are that affected by somebody,
Mm-hmm.
energy wise, then
Yep.
it starts with you.
I agree.
You gotta.
Yeah.
If I come up to you and we're both mad at each other, we're both just gonna be throwing fireballs at each other,
Mhm.
really.
Right. Yeah. And especially because the kid is there, and that's
Yeah.
one thing that I could say about me and you is we have never argued in front of Javen.
Never.
He has never seen us upset at each other. Javen has never heard me talk bad about you. Like, I don't do that. Like, you're going to be just like, no, I don't like, you're a great person. You know what I mean? So if Javen has your qualities, then thank God, because you're hard work, so I just, I truly believe that you don't do that in front of the kid. Like, he's never seen us argue. He's never seen me or heard me talk about you or Mariah. Like, there's just that, it goes back to the rules. Like, there's just certain things that you don't do in front of your
He said
child.
I make better tacos than you, though.
He said you make better tacos. I can't cook that well, so forget Javen. But yeah, so I just feel like there's certain things, just keep in mind that you're, like you said, the child is watching everything. They see everything. So just being mindful of what you're saying around your child and what you're doing and what you're allowing to get into their ears and their spirit. Like, just being mindful of all that stuff. So, I mean, and then if you're constantly arguing, it just kind of goes back to why. Like you said, why? What's
Why?
the roots? Like sitting down, really thinking, okay, why am I so upset at him? Am I mad that he left? Am I mad that he's not with me still? Am I mad that things didn't work out? Am I mad that I got pregnant? And I really, I could be doing this or doing something else, like coming to terms and being okay with where you are. And I'll never forget when I had first got pregnant with Javen, because I was like raised in the church. I was like the church girl. And when I got
Right.
pregnant, it was just like, what? Like, no, you're not, Tiffany. You're not pregnant. And I was like, I am. Like, people didn't believe me because I was such like a quote unquote good girl. But
Yeah.
I remember when I first got pregnant and I was in the back of church crying. And this guy, one of the deacons in the church, he leaned over and he was like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I was like, I can't believe I'm pregnant. He was like, ain't no crying. Like, ain't no point in crying no more. It's already didn't happen. Like, wipe the tears, get up, do what you got to do. And so it's like if you're yelling and constantly arguing because you're feeling guilty that you're pregnant or things didn't go the way you planned, like you just have to, like I said, forgive yourself. Okay, God, it happened. There's no coulda, shoulda, woulda. I can't go back. I can't change anything. It's done. How can I move forward? You know what I mean? Like, how can I make the rest of my life the best of my life from here on out? You know what I mean? Whether or not they're around, if they are, great. If they're not, okay, we will still be okay. And I feel like that's just the kind of mindset that you just have to have. You know what I mean? So,
Feel so much better.
yeah, you just, like you said, letting somebody else control your mood and your atmosphere, and you just,
Gosh, I could live like that.
yeah, it's torment.
I don't even give
So.
5 minutes, 5 seconds. Like,
Yeah. So, yeah, no, I'm just grateful. So pretty much, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. This is literally God's grace, like right here, because I used to sit in my room and cry and cry and cry, like, oh my God, I'm pregnant. I have to be connected to him for the rest of my life. I got to deal with him forever, but like I said, if you keep God at the center, like God can change people. And if you just pray for them. Like I remember my mom used to be like, pray for him. I didn't want to pray for him,
They work.
but I just prayed, and God can change people so much better than you can, or you're arguing or you're yelling or you're judging or criticizing or whatever. Like God can do such a better job than you can. So whatever is wrong with that person, whatever you think is wrong with that person, take it up with Jesus and just let him, if you do your part and be respectful and be kind and be patient and graceful and show mercy, then God will do his part and work on their heart.
Mm.
So, I mean, like you said earlier, I didn't ask you to increase, the child support that you were giving me. You just did that on your own because you said God told you to. Like, I didn't have to do anything. God will take care of you. So that is what I want you to know, is that whoever you are, however many kids you have, God will take care of you. So, yeah, thank you for coming. I'm so grateful.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it was good, right? So thank you guys for watching. I hope that it helped you. Please share this video with people that you see constantly on your timeline talking about their child's parent. So until next time, yeah. So until next time, I will see you guys